Okay, right now with I got the back end set up for like sitting at 12.5 inches, which would be shocks on there with no weight on it. And with level on there, we're sitting about 31 degrees, which is measured off the imaginary vertical line here to the angle. That's sitting on the bike, you'd probably be 32 if you put some weight on the shocks, because you're going to load the front end, which is going to change it slightly. And I got the front end tied down here too. We're right there. So I'm going to raise the bike up. That's at roughly 12.5. So if I jack the bike up, like if I wanted to put 13.5 inch shocks on there, we're going to jack it up. Then I'm going to measure eye to eye here. 13 right there. Let's check it at 13. What are we sitting at? Okay, that's 13 inches. We've gone to 60.25 degrees. So let me go on up here. We're going to go up to 13.5. See what the difference is there. 13.5 inch shocks right there. So that will put us at 60.9 basically. So about 29 degrees. Let's go up 14 inches. See what we got here. About 14. Where are we sitting at now? 61.5 degrees. Okay, 14 inch shocks, that puts us at about 28 degrees, 28.5 degrees. Now you can change that. I've got the tubes slid almost all the way down. So if you slide the tubes up a little bit in the triple trees, you can change the rake even further. The only drawback is going to be the trail. You might get a little twitchy in the front end there. So what you can do is add I would suggest, and I'll be putting one on here, as a steering dampener. Sportsters and narrow glide front ends in general on Harleys anyway, on Dyna, FXR, whatever. You can get speed wobbles out of them already. And a lot of that has to do with the position of your handlebars. Let me see if I can show you what I mean here. So basically, if you're sitting on here with buckhorn bars or ape hangers, or even worse, you're sitting in the wind like a damn sail. So you're pulling back on the bars, which is actually lifting the front end up slightly. The faster you go, the more it lifts the front end. So the front end gets a little dancy on the road there. And a lot of times, if you just lean forward slightly, you can get rid of that speed wobble. And a lot of people don't. They're sitting there with apes on there, and they hit 80, 85, 90 miles an hour, and the front end starts dancing around a little bit. And the wind's catching them, so the faster they go on, the more it's pulling them back. So the more it's lifting the front end. And the front ends in these things are already, damping's usually way the hell off. So it didn't, especially rebound dampening. So think of your rebound, the front end's actually coming off the ground is what you're doing, because it can't return, forks can't return fast enough. So a lot of handling problems on these things that are pretty easily correctable. I don't know if you ever noticed, like Jay Springsteen or anybody like that on flat track, they're hugging the tank, and some of them are holding the left fork, holding the fork with their left hand. Speed wobbles, tank slappers, whatever you want to call them, they happen. Steering dampener helps. Good suspension setup definitely helps. But I like these things to turn a little bit, so I like to run them a little bit more rake. I have run 15-inch shocks in the back with the tube slid up slightly, but that's with a well-prepped suspension. That's like, as the kids say, back in the day, there'd be $1,000 shocks, which I don't know how much they are now. That's for like WP shocks, fully adjustable. And I guess WP probably still makes shocks, but I won't be putting that $1,000 shocks on a $1,000 bike, if that. So we'll get some halfway decent shocks to put on the back here. I've already changed the fork oil in front end, and it could still use redamping, at least new damper tubes, and probably springs too. Not probably, springs are. This is a 2001. Just figure the springs are 24 years old, 25 years old, whatever it is. So that's basically rake. And the trail, I'm not measuring it today. The trail's going to change. If you slide the tubes around a little bit, it's going to change the trail on it. The trail's just going to be a line pretty much drawn from the center of the axle, center of the fork tube, straight down to the ground, and then a line from, you can use a plumb bob to measure this with, just straight down, put a ruler down there, and then from the center line of the axle to wherever the center line of the fork to the center line of the axle is going to be your trail. And I think on these things stock, they're like 4.7, 4.5, somewhere around those lines, which we just changed because I jacked the ass end up. So it actually gave it less trail. And I'll measure the front end again too. I just got some steel struts holding it right now because I had to use the shocks off of this on the other bike. Because the only other shocks I had were 10.5s, and whew, this 10.5s are rough, I'll tell you that much. But that's about it. You can make these things handle fairly decent. Over stock. Anyway, good tires, good suspension setup. Imagine this. You might need more ground clearance. The old race bike, which was actually set up taller than this thing for more ground clearance, my foot peg was back here, pretty much almost in line with the swing arm pivot. And it was, it's this high up. And the end of my foot peg, it stick out about this far because my pipes went out this way and underneath and then back up. So my rear foot peg would be like right here, just about right there. And it would be ground off at a 45-degree angle. So yeah, I'm leaning the bike over that far. Same way with the one on the primary. It's about in the same place, and it'd be ground off as well. And even my shifter would be ground off. I used to ground the toe sliders off of my race boots there. A long time ago. A lot younger. A lot more brave, I guess you'd call it. So all things to consider. You don't want to be touching stuff down. The way this pipe goes right here, this thing would be ground like crazy. The other exhaust tucked in further up this way, slightly higher up, about right here, and then came back and went up, about like that. Had a Bartell's 2-into-1 on there, open megaphone, a reverse cone megaphone with no baffle in it. Whew, that thing was loud. I can't tell you what to do with your own bike, but these things are notorious for having bad suspension settings on them, stock. They're fine for putzing around stock, but nowhere near sporty. And valving and the forks sucks, valving and shocks sucks for any kind of spirited riding at all. One of the best things you could do to make these things handle better is get rid of the rear shocks and go with something that actually has some travel to it and some damping. Preferably something with an adjustable compression and rebound dampening. And same with the front forks. And I'm not going into the whole setup here with fork springs and all that in this thing. This is just on basic geometry, real basic. But yeah, you can make them turn a little bit better, a little bit faster, which is what I like. It's the way I ride. It just makes it safer, more comfortable, we'll say. Even if you're not riding like that, just a good set of rear shocks, good ones, not something that's 2 inches shorter. It ain't got no travel to it. Something that you get on the bike and it's like, man, this thing actually feels pretty good compared to hard as rock with, 1.5 inch of travel, if that. Same with the forks, just changing out the fork springs and the fork oil. I always run a 20 weight in these things. I don't know what the viscosity index is, but I have a certain brand of 20 weight that I always use and have since the early 90s at least. That works really good. Stiffens up gets rid of most of the dive in the front end. Doesn't get rid of it, but it certainly helps. I usually add an extra ounce fork oil in there too when I'm changing it to take up some of the air gap, so it stiffens it up a little bit even more. And Progressive used to make a nice racing damper tube. It had the holes drilled different sizes for the rebound and compression in the damper tube. Those worked really good. But evidently they quit making them, I think. And I probably won't be pulling these out of here and welding them up and drilling them, because I don't remember what sizes we used to pull the damper tubes out and weld up the holes, weld up the compression and the rebound holes, and then re-drill them. But that's was before Progressive started making them damper tubes, which were only like $40 before. But that's about it for this one. Hope everybody has a good week. Thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing, all that stuff. And everybody take care.